now every time we get a new client, it's like we give a year's worth of water to people in underprivileged countries. We support some, saving people from human trafficking, the animal care, all of those things. And it means that we can celebrate that success as well as the success of the business. Interestingly, and one thing that we've started doing basically since this COVID thing started kicking off is that we now do our introductory meeting. So the front end of our meeting, we charge $300 for this meeting, but since we've discounted a little bit for COVID, we put a 50% discount on it, and we're donating 100% of that money to charity.
Welcome to episode 46 of the Innovating Advice Show. I'm joined by Ben Nash, founder of Pivot Wealth in Australia. I've known Ben since he started Pivot Wealth 5 years ago and have always been in awe of his branding and marketing. So in this episode, we're talking through his approach to both, including his experience and success with videos, social media, webinars, and in-person events where he's getting up to 85% conversion, LinkedIn, podcasts, and how he repurposes the same content across different platforms. We also chat about the positive impact that Pivot Wealth is having on the world by being a B1G1, a buy one, give one, business for good. Links, show notes, and timestamps if you'd like to jump to a particular part at innovatingadvice.com/episode 46. You're listening to the Innovating Advice Show, and I'm your host, Kate Holmes, bringing you the global pulse on financial services innovation, featuring financial planners, financial advisors, and related professionals from all corners of the globe. Let's dive in. Ben Nash, how the heck are you?
Yeah, going good. COVID free, I think. So, life is good.
Good. It's your first day back in the office, so the world's starting to reopen there.
First day back in the office, but I must admit that you can tell who's got a lease and who doesn't, because I would say that it's about 70% empty here. We're just in a WeWork location in Sydney CBD, and yeah, there's a lot of people have cleared out.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that pans out over the next few months. If it stays empty, people stay home, they start to wander in, who knows? So Ben, let's dive in and share with us your catalyst for when and why you started Pivot Wealth.
Sure. Well, I started in advice in a fairly traditional business that was working with a lot of people that had already had a lot of money and just helping them turn that money into more money, which was quite cool, and I really enjoyed it. But then I left there. They actually did a big restructure and fired all of their financial advisors, which is a bit of a shock at the time. But
Yeah.
The good thing about getting fired alongside all of your mates is that we could squeeze in a few games of golf between doing interviews and the job hunting. But anyway, I left there and went and worked in a small business that was basically a mortgage broker and a lawyer that was doing a lot of property, helping people buy properties. And they brought me in to build the financial advice arm of that business. And I really enjoyed the work. I hadn't worked in that space with younger clients before, and it's a completely different demographic to going from people that were, multimillionaires and about to retire to people that were, some of the clients are like 25 and had a property or an investment property or something, and they're wanting to grow assets and get to that point. Yeah. So that was a bit of a journey, and I evolved that advice over a heap of time. Thankfully, started working with the XY Advisor Group, that was when we kicked that thing off with Clayton Daniel, who I know has been on this show, and Adrian Paddy and Ray Duramis as well, and that allowed us to. We're all sort of learning off each other and innovating, and we spent about a year trying to figure out a way for me to become a part owner of that business that I was working in, but ultimately decided that it wasn't the right approach, and and then I decided to leave. I didn't really like people telling me what to do, so I figured I'd start my own business. And it's funny that when you start thinking about this stuff, that it was sort of like I thought, oh yeah, I'll just write it out sort of 12 months and and I can plan and build a business plan and do all of the things. And then I was like, oh, a week later I was going, well, probably 6 months is better, get it faster. And then by the next week, I think it was 3 months. And then I think I resigned the next week. So I was like,
wow,
just sort of, went for it. So it wasn't, I never thought I'd be a business owner. I'm not one of these, entrepreneur types that has always said, I'm going to go be an entrepreneur and do all this stuff. I just really enjoyed what I was doing, and a tiny bit of arrogance that I thought I could do it better than, what had been done in some areas. And that sort of led me to take the leap. I was about just coming up to 5 years ago.
So one of the things that I really love about what you've built, and one of the things that I've actually been looking at for a while, is bringing a charitable element into financial planning businesses. And there's so much good that financial planners already do. And I think there's so much good that financial planners can continue to do. So I just love that you are a B1G1 business for good. And I would just love to hear more about what that means and what the catalyst was to doing that.
Sure. Well, for anyone that's not familiar with B1G1, it stands for Buy One, Give One, and it's basically you, through partnership with B1G1, you commit that whenever someone does business with you, that you do something good in the world. And I was fortunate enough, and I went through the Key Person of Influence Business Accelerator program, which is like a training program. I think they've got it in the States. It's big in the UK as well. That Clayton Daniel actually went through it, and he said that I could saw the stuff that he got out of it, and I thought that's great. Went and did that, and then they did a retreat, and then they brought along Paul Dunn, was he's the CEO of the B1G1 business and one of the co-founders with his now wife Masami Sato, and they an amazing story that it was just about charitable giving and about they have sort of, there's different sort of iterations of it, but the 1% pledge or like the UN global goals, and just making the business not just about making money. And that resonated really strongly with me, and it's been a focus of not doing business, not all about the money, has been a value that we followed for a long time. One of our core values from the start was people before profit, and it was all about putting the people outcomes ahead of the financial outcomes. But the funny thing, and what they've experienced, like you see some of the superstars in the B1G1 movement, is that when you do things like that, then the financial performance follows the the people outcomes and the charitable stuff. So yeah, we went to this thing, and Paul Dunn, who's an amazing human being, he gave a presentation and spoke about the B1G1 story and some of the things. And yeah, I just thought, this is great. This is the way to do it. They have a whole heap of like micro giving opportunities that you can get give someone a day's worth of water for something like 1 cent, 1 US cent.
Wow.
Or you can do things, which is actually one of the things that we're thinking about working on at the moment, is that you can, for $3,000, you can build someone a house. So there's quite a diverse range of projects and initiatives that you can work on. But what we've done, like with our team, we got everybody in the team to pick a project, and there's something that strikes a chord with them. And we got anything from Yang, who's a massive animal lover, so she got some animal care stuff. We had Save People for Human Trafficking, education. Education is a big one, and it's something that strikes a chord with us because of the education work that we do with our clients. But now every time we get a new client, it's like we give a year's worth of water to people in underprivileged countries. We support some, saving people from human trafficking, the animal care, all of those things. And it means that we can celebrate that success as well as the success of the business. Interestingly, and one thing that we've started doing since this COVID thing started kicking off, is that we now do our introductory meeting. So the front end of our meeting, we charge $300 for this meeting, but we've discounted a little bit for COVID. We put a 50% discount on it, and we're donating 100% of that money to charity.
That's awesome.
And we've now, I'm pretty proud that we've raised just over $5,000 just since the start of March-ish, for when the COVID stuff started kicking off, for our charity partners. That's why we're thinking about doing that house building project. But the other part of it is that it's a really easy conversation when you have a client and you have an introductory phone call with the client, which is the very front end of that process, or do a webinar and sell these sessions from stage. But we say, this session, it's $150, but we're donating 100% of the money. This is our way as an organization of giving back, that we put in our time, you put in a bit of cash, and everybody wins. And I think our conversions, like from when we do it from a phone call, from people that have heard about us, it'd be over 95% of people, because they're just like, oh yeah, I want to do something good. Plus I want to learn more about what you've got, and I'm going to get some stuff out of this as well. And it's just like,
wow,
total game changer, And at the end of the day, I think as a business, I don't care about $150. Like, we're selling a $5,000 or $10,000 financial planning service off the back of that, such that I'm happy. And we've done a few interesting ones with people, especially from the webinars, which are a bit of a mixed bag. Some uni students, and they're like, 18 or 19 or 20, and like trying to get on the front foot with their finances. But at the end of the day, they put in a bit of cash, you still feel good about that stuff. So yeah, I think it's let's say something that allows you go, if we're donating heaps of money, that means we're kicking heaps of butt over here. So
yes,
that's we can be happy about both of those things.
So I anticipate that's something anybody could do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, have a chat to Paul. I think he does a lot of those front end conversations himself, because he's a champion. But there's there's a small fee that they charge as like a membership fee, and then you just get your login and you set up your projects, the things that you want to do. There's literally, like, I think at least definitely hundreds, maybe thousands of projects that they personally vet and manage the projects. So that they've got that stream. The other really awesome thing about B1G1 is that, when you give them the money directly provides the outcome. It's not like sometimes in Australia, and obviously there's some amazing charities over here, but when you look at the proportion of the money that's donated, that's spent on administration versus the amount that actually ends up at the cause, sometimes you go like, really, I don't know, is it achieving? Is there a better way? And that's sort of the problem that those guys are solving.
That's fantastic, Ben. That's so awesome. I would encourage people listening to absolutely consider that as they're maybe even looking at next year, or just going forward with everything going on. What a great way to, like you said, connect, kicking butt, giving back, like winning on both sides for everyone. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fulfilling, and I think it's I think that's what, as entrepreneurs, really it's the entrepreneurs that drive social change. Like all human beings on the planet, the people that drive change in society. But we're fortunate in a lot of I suppose the countries that your listeners are listening to have high standards of healthcare and education and nutrition. And I think really it's the least that we can do. If we've got this business as a vehicle, and we're helping, we're doing well here, that it's borderline, it's our responsibility to help people that are less fortunate.
Yes, couldn't agree more. So shifting gears from that a little bit, you have had gorgeous branding from day one. I've used your website in multiple presentations for years as an example of just really, really great branding in your ebooks and your social media, you name it. What was that process like to develop your brand in the beginning?
Well, look, to be honest, I'm really good with spreadsheets, but I am terrible with pictures. So my creativity comes from financial strategies, processes, that sort of stuff. But my mum's got this painting that I did when I was in like year 5 of a tree, and it honestly looks like a 3-year-old's finger painting or something. It's, so I can take no credit for that. But I was fortunate that a good mate of mine, that he is a superstar when it comes to the branding and creative side of things. And he, when I was starting the business, it was a natural thing for me to just get him to help me. So he did all of the stuff, and I basically, he just asked me some questions, and then sort of came up with the brief. But he's always focused on keeping it real. And I think that, well, it's funny. I had this this is when I just left the previous business that I was working with, and that we developed this service flyers, packages, brochure thing that I was quite proud of. And it was like a sales tool that I used the thing and had all this stuff in there. And on the front cover was a picture of this couple, and they were holding hands and running through a field with like a whole bunch of daisies and stuff. And I was like, hey man, I was like, this is my brochure. I was like, I want something sort of like that. He goes, I'm not doing that. And then he went off and made me a much better brochure. And I was like, what do you mean? Shit. He goes, who does that? He goes, people don't run through fields holding hands, fields of daisies.
Yeah.
Like, it's not something that people do.
Nope.
But people do, like sit in the cafe and drink your coffee, or like, I don't know, normal stuff. So he's always been good with, I suppose, using imagery, and thankfully the language thing is sort of coming a bit more easily to me, that I've always used, relatable language that sort of speaks to people, the way that people speak, as opposed to this in finance that we have this really terrible habit of making it very corporatized and ivory tower, like making people feel really stupid using jargon, that sort of stuff. So I avoided that. But yeah, he's just delivered for me every time. And I was thankful again to have a couple of really good mentors. My business coach at the time, Steve Salvia, shout out Steve. He's helped me a lot with like identifying the problems that the target market that you're speaking to, really talking in their language. Don't talk about like, we do transition retirement pensions, or we do wealth creation, because people don't say that. Like, people don't run through the fields with the daisies. People don't talk like in those words that people say. I want more money. I want to pay less tax. I want to get ahead faster. And I'm frustrated because I'm not making progress that I want, or whatever. So we just, that sort of connecting those two sides of the coin together, that and the key person influence program as well, which they're really big on that stuff, has allowed, I think it's certainly, we've got a lot of comments and feedback from people that look at the website and they just go, yes, it just, that's exactly the sort of stuff that we think. And it's led to a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, it has. Well, that coupled with, you've done, I feel like, every marketing channel there is. And even for as long as I can remember, you've been doing videos. You've been doing great videos and workshops and speaking and traditional and social media. Now you've got a podcast. So let's just take those one at a time, because I'd love to hear, which ones work best. Have you done all of them just to test them out? Are there any that have dropped off over time? So let's start with all the videos you've done throughout the years.
Sure. Well, look, I think this is partly the illusion of social media, because I've only really been doing videos for 18 months.
No.
So yeah, so I'd never done video before. I'd done a lot of events and talking, and no doubt we'll have a little bit of a chat about that. But I'm a bit of a process-minded, sort of a little bit crazy with how I approach things. But what I did was I wanted some client testimonials, because I was redoing my website, right? So I got this guy that's a superstar video producer, Scott Last. He's based out of Sydney, also a champion. And then I lined up like 20 clients to come in. We did it here in these offices in the WeWork, and I just asked them a bunch of questions, and then basically he's chopped that stuff together. And then I did in between them asking questions. I think we spent 6 days, and then he also shot 4 events. And any time that the camera wasn't rolling on an event or a client, I would just start just spurting this stuff. The things that you say every single day that you're talking to clients, that they're just like hardwired into our brains. That you get, and almost like it's like muscle memory sort of thing. And I think we got like 400 videos out of that.
Oh my goodness.
And then I just made a commitment to post one video every week for a year. I was like, I'm just going to post a video every single day, every single week for 1 year, which I did. And it was pretty amazing that it just sort of, it started getting a bit of traction. And it's like you say, that you've been doing it for ages because it's just always there,
Consistency.
So,
it's the power of consistency.
Yeah. And I think that videos are really super powerful because people see you. So I think that that's a big power of video, but also that they just, people either resonate with your approach to doing things or not. Like, there's no point anyone taking on a client that doesn't click with how we view the world as a business. And that's why we spend a lot of time in our prospecting process to really help people unpack how we do see the world, so that they can see if what they want aligns with what we think is important, aligns with what they think is important. But yeah, I find that you just, people, and LinkedIn is a big channel for us. A lot of the video stuff goes through there. And, you'll connect with somebody or they connect with you. And then it's like, there's a video, they go, oh yeah, that's sort of, yeah, that makes sense. And then like, oh, maybe I should do something about that. Oh, then life gets in the way. And then it's next week you're there again. And maybe they missed that one. But then the week after you're there again, and then again, and then again. And then like after 6 months ago, shit, I said I was going to do something 6 months ago and I haven't. Yeah. And it's still making sense. And now I've built this relationship essentially virtually with these people. And then they just reach out, and it's like and it's funny that the power of that and the power of the podcast, which no doubt we'll talk a little bit about as well, is that when you have a prospect conversation with somebody and they've consumed a whole heap of your content, they just say your words back to you. Yep. And then you're like, oh yeah, well, that's actually what we do. Yeah. So it's all that conditioning. So yeah, so I think, we've done a whole heap of different things with marketing, but really consistency and constant iteration, I think, and refinement and improvement is the key. And you've got to commit for a period of time, I think, because without that, and also have a system to, and I'm a big system sort of guy, but have a process for content creation that works for your business, that is going to allow you to do that. Because if you don't, and I've fallen into this trap as well, that then you're doing it in a reactive way and it doesn't, then it falls in a heap, and then you don't get the results, and you're like, oh, I did all that stuff and it was frustrating and it didn't actually lead to anything, and now I'm going to stop doing it. Whereas if you just have a clear plan and then a structure to achieve that, then you can follow it through and give something 6 or 12 months and see what the results actually are. We've done a lot of stuff, but I've found that for us, Facebook has never been a big channel. It's never really worked for us. Instagram, we've got like 10,000 followers on Instagram, never really did anything for us.
Even with 10,000 followers?
No, not really.
Wow.
Yeah, it's something that I got really into with Clayton, actually, that we were sort of doing it at the same time. And I got some engagement, but I think that the key to any media channel is that you've got to really drive engagement, and that means that you've got to engage. Well, I do a lot of stuff on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is a really successful channel for us because I love LinkedIn. I'm always on there. When people comment on my stuff, I comment back, I make questions, there's relationships on there. I'm sure you can do, I've seen people be successful in those other channels, but I just hate Facebook, and I never go on Instagram.
Yep.
So of course it's like I could post the most awesome content, but if you're not there to engage with people off the back, I think it's never going to be as successful.
Agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I know you've done from the beginning, because I highlighted this in my presentation years ago, is your workshops.
Yes. Yeah.
So how did those come about? And is that, something that you're still doing as much as you used to?
We're not doing the in-person ones anymore, although I think next month we'll do our first in-person one for a little while. I had done some workshops in the previous business that I worked in before. So they were big on education. And also the very first business that I worked in, they did a few seminars and bits and pieces. So I'd always been interested in that, and I hated public speaking. So it terrified me. Yeah. So I was always, and I like to sort of challenge myself. So I was like, oh, I just got to figure this out, or, get out of the comfort zone and do it. So, so I was lucky that I sort of not fell. I put in the work to get there, but I had a mate that was a financial planner in another state, and they created a partnership with this company that does a bunch of events. And just at the time that I started the business, I went and had a chat to the guys, and like, oh yeah, cool, let's give it a go. And they had a really big list, and our stuff really resonated with them and with the list. I mean, so we put on some different events, and again, just did, every couple of months we were doing events, and just constantly refining and improving what we were doing. I found that at the start, we got a few clients out of it, and that sort of led to getting a few more clients. But then after a while, we stopped really getting as many clients from those events with those guys. And I think it was the alignment that our sort of service evolved and got more high touch and more expensive. And then the market was a bit more early stage in terms of their target demographic. But what I found was that the events and just taking photos at the events and posting that stuff up was a really awesome way to build trust with people, because they go, oh, here's Ben, this financial planner. They're like, oh, financial planners are dodgy. They're like, but maybe looks like he's not dodgy. I don't know. I'll wait and see. And then it's like you talk, and then there's a photo of you talking to a room full of people, and they're like, well, there's a whole heap of people there. They don't seem to, they're not angry. They're not throwing anything. They're like, maybe he's not crazy. And then it's like the next month is another photo, and then another photo, and then the rooms get bigger and bigger, and the more that stuff happens, you start again to build this credibility. It's like, this business can fill a room. They've got people that are happy. People are commenting and doing stuff. So I think that's a really powerful part, and I'll continue doing events even if I don't get clients out of it. But like the live events.
Well, that gets back to consistency, right? I mean, so much of it's all the things that just build on themselves, and that snowball keeps getting bigger. And, like I said, even if you do events every month or every couple months, that builds on itself. Posting one video a week, that builds on itself. So it's not, hey, I have to do 10 social media posts every single day.
Yes,
it's the little things over time.
Yeah. And I think that picking one thing and focusing on one thing, I think it's a really easy thing, because there's so many things that we could do, that you can fall into the trap of thinking that you need to do all of the things at the same time, which is never, ever going to work.
Never.
So I think that, you picking one, make it really good, make it work, give it some traction, then focus on the next one. So that's what we've been doing. Live streaming, that's something that we've been focused on since COVID. Actually, we just started it, and the podcast as well, which is essentially it's the same thing. Don't tell anyone, but it's like I just do the live stream and then just take the audio, and that turns into a podcast, and then people can choose their channel of preference. But doing that and other live online events like webinars and stuff, that we've transitioned the events to there. It's been really, really successful. Now I do these events, and from the webinars, I'll pitch those sessions, those $150 sessions where we donate the money to charity. And we're getting, I'll put a bigger event in every sort of month, and we'll get 10 to 20 intro meetings booked off the back of it from doing one event. And different, we're still learning. We did one that was a bit more basics, and the people that booked were less of the right fit to become clients. But we did one, and I think we got 85% conversion or something from these sessions that we just sold from a webinar, essentially. So I think that the COVID obviously is terrible, but one of the upsides is that everyone's available and everyone's on their computer all of the time. If you're not a service provider, like if your job isn't to talk to people, I've found that so many people are sitting there and they're just watching webinars and events and consuming content and trying to sort out some life admin and upskill themselves and learn some things. So I think it gives you the ability to get right to people quite quickly, and also it's just so easy. Like, it's scary. It's scary to do it at the start, but you fire up the Zoom or fire up the laptop and whatever your channel is or program or whatever, and you can just do your thing, and then you close it up and off you go. It's not like with the events that we do, and it's like you set up a room and go and buy some beers and fill the room and set up the chairs and do the talk, and then everyone leaves, and then you pack down the chairs, and it's just so much simpler. And I think, like, I really enjoy the live events because there is a bit of magic that you lose in a webinar, that it is very much while you can do Q&A, that it is very much a one-way channel, and there's a bit of magic in being in front of the room and trying to engage people on mass, like at scale, which I really enjoy. So I keep doing it, but from a bang for buck perspective, I would say that the online stuff is bigger. It is much easier and better for bang for buck.
Well, and then you can reach people beyond just your geographic area. I mean, even being where you're at, obviously there are lots of client options, but for people that, want to work with people around their country or that work with expats around the world, it just opens up so many more opportunities for those clients to meet you when you're doing virtual events.
Absolutely. Yeah. We've had some of those conversations, people in the US, Hong Kong, Singapore.
Yeah.
Where was the other one? Ireland as well. So it's funny that the challenges are broadly the same, and the options are broadly the same as well. So yeah, absolutely, it does open up that global doorway.
Yeah. So the podcast, so even though it's kind of that YouTube live and then turn it into a podcast, I started the podcast earlier this year. It's obviously a big medium that's growing, and a lot of advisors wondering, hey, should I be starting a podcast? So do you have a specific sort of return on investment or metrics that you're going to track to see if it's successful? Or is it just kind of, hey, it's easy because I'm already doing the LinkedIn Live and I can just turn it into a podcast with minimal effort?
Yeah, look, I probably a bit of, well, both. It's definitely both. We track everything, so we definitely know where people come from. We've already got one client out of the podcast, which happened on like the fourth episode that I put out. That it was something about employer share schemes, and then they're like, "Saw your podcast, can we chat?" And then just became a $6,000 client off the back of that intro session. So I was like, well, obviously I'm going to continue doing this because some early sort of validation there. But I think that we're measuring the metrics to see, but I think that some people want to watch live video online, and some people want to listen to podcasts. I think COVID has stopped a lot of people from listening to podcasts as much because there's less of a commute because everyone's working from home.
Yeah.
But I think that one of the other parts, again, and you mentioned a couple of times, is that it just builds credibility. That now, like I've done, because all my podcasts, and this isn't how it will remain forever, but what I've done with my podcast is I'm just answering a question. Every podcast I answer a question. The one that I did on Monday was how to afford a multi-million-dollar dream home without a crippling mortgage. I've done like another one, which is what to look for when you get financial advice so that you know that it's good. Now, every time that someone books an intro meeting with me, I send them, along with other content, I send them that podcast and I say, hey, if you're one of these people that likes to put in, you want to lean into this process, and I encourage them to do that you should listen to this podcast because I talk about a lot of things. And then they know that it's commonly asked questions. We're overcoming objections before they even come up. And even beyond that, it just goes, oh yeah, they've got a podcast, they've got this thing here, they've got that other thing there, maybe not crazy.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So have any of the marketing channels worked better for you than others, or has that shifted over time, over the last, what are we on, 5 years almost?
Yeah, look, I think LinkedIn is something that I've always done a lot of, like just connecting with people. I don't do the spam thing on LinkedIn, although I used to. That worked as well for a while, but then I just felt a bit weird about it, like where you would actually message people, like connect with them and then message them and offer them like a lead magnet or something.
Yeah.
To me, it's a little bit icky. Though, so I probably wouldn't suggest anybody do that. I think there's enough of that on LinkedIn now. But just literally just connecting with people and just building your network of connections. Like, we've got 18,000 connections on LinkedIn now, and it means that whenever I post stuff, that it gets a lot of eyeballs in that market. And again, it's just you're just constantly there, being helpful, building collateral with people. Like, we would have got hundreds of thousands of dollars of work out of that channel alone over the last several years. But I think, again, I think it's all just about being consistent. And it has been like, I still, every day I'm doing stuff on LinkedIn, not just scrolling around aimlessly. Like, every day I'm doing work on my LinkedIn. I like to sort of figure stuff out. But yeah, so, and it's sort of fun, but it's definitely a commitment that you have to do. And I know that I think actually LinkedIn now, I haven't looked at it. The last time I looked at it, it was like 12.5% of our clients come directly from LinkedIn.
Wow.
Which is a pretty big amount, really. I think for a channel, it's certainly worth the work that we put into it.
And where do the bulk of your clients come from?
We get about a third from referrals from our existing clients.
Awesome.
and then a third come from referrals from our network, from partners and mortgage brokers, a couple of good mortgage brokers, and property buyers agents, that sort of stuff. And then the balance comes from, there's a bit of random in there, just like networks and bits and pieces, but then the rest come from events, either online events or physical events.
And do you know how many clients you've had over the 5 years?
I would say that we're probably maybe like 160-ish of our full service sort of clients. I think that when back in the first 3 years, we brought on an average of about 25 to 30 clients a year. Nice. And now we sort of bring on 50 clients a year. Well, actually, now we're probably bringing on a little bit more than that. We've now got capacity because we've got 2 other advisors in the business, that our full capacity is 3 new clients a week, That's a ton. Yeah. We're pretty structured with how we approach things. It keeps us on our toes, but we've done that. We've done that for the last sort of 2 months. We've been working at that pace. It's we need to it's difficult to sustain consistently because you've got to, it's the joy of business that it's like you go, oh, I need more clients, then you go do all this work, and then you get heaps of clients, get busy with clients. So I'm really trying to set up some structures to avoid or to mitigate that somewhat. But yeah, I think it's good for, it means that you can reach more people, and we're pretty proud of the model that we've built. So that for us, success is he's having more impact.
Yeah, definitely. So what advice would you have to listeners that are thinking, hey, they might need a brand refresh, or they might need to get out there and build their brand using hopefully one of these channels at a time? Where would you suggest they start?
I think you start at your market. So start at your target market. What are their problems? What are their frustrations? What are their challenges? Where do they live? Where do they hang out? Where do they hang out online? What do they do? What are they interested in? And that should start to drive the channels that you want. One of the things at LinkedIn, we're big on professionals, and LinkedIn is professional network. So that sort of works for us. But I think if you start there, then it will start to narrow your options. Then if you pick a thing that becomes that you can have, multi-channel access to, I think that the video thing, video podcasting for us is great, that you can do. I do a live stream record a podcast, and then create a video all at the same time. The video gives me, the podcast thing gives me, we use headliner, but we're just finessing this at the moment. But essentially, will we be able to post 2 or 3 posts a week from that? Then the video you can chop up and put some subtitles and captions and stuff, and get the same, importantly, the same 2 or 3 videos that then they become your social little things that you can put onto whatever. Create a podcast, create a live stream, and then have the description for that to be the social media post that goes along with that. And then you pick something that allows you to just go, okay, great. Now I've done one thing and I've got 12 pieces of content.
Yeah.
So if you think about it in that way, then it reduces the load. So you're not trying to go do a Facebook post over here, and a LinkedIn post over here, and another thing over there. I think, efficiency is king.
Yes, you can say that again. Awesome, Ben. I love it. You've done so much awesome stuff. Thank you for all the insights you provided. Definitely encourage people to follow you on LinkedIn because you're doing super cool stuff. Check out your website. I've got links to all that in the show notes. Any final calls to action?
No, there's no, I don't think so. I think, have fun, put the client first, and, success will follow.
Yeah. And go for that B1G1 status. That's just too
do something
cool.
good in the world at the same time.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome, Ben. Thank you so much.
Nice one. Happy to help.
Thanks for listening to the Innovating Advice Show. I'd love to hear your thoughts, so make sure to connect with me on LinkedIn and shoot me a thought or two. Link to my profile is right below. Stay safe, stay well, and I look forward to hearing from you.